educated society of Britain. What made the youth become so angry?
When it comes to xenophobia, right-wing nationalism, white supremacist ideology, that's not new. What has made it deadly is the role of social media. Through disinformation to create an anti-Muslim sentiment, an anti-immigrant sentiment, which a doctored video, a doctored screenshot, a doctored audio, voice cloned. The newsrooms don't try to verify it, check it. They don't do the due diligence. The old school 3-source rule is thrown in the dust. You have perfect storm.
Despite lack of resources, lack of opportunities, one such villager from Mia Chunnu brings home Pakistan a gold medal from Olympics after 4 decades. So don't you think being poor and technology deprived can become a blessing in disguise?
He was lucky and fortunate enough to have a real, actual playground rather than having a virtual playground and playing video games on small screen.
But how would you briefly compare his rags to riches story with such modest background and resource constraints with the formidable competitor from neighboring country, India, who had the best resources? He could not afford a single Javelin a few months ago, you would recall?
Exactly.
For training.
Yes.
And he broke the world record twice within a span of 1 hour.
Arshad Nadeem had nothing to lose but his chains and had the whole world to win. And he proved it.
So you're talking about commitment, dedication, and focus. The young generation of Bangladesh used these 3 attributes to change perhaps the monopoly of a family dynasty for a very long time. So how do you see the role of Bangladeshi youth in this changing environment?
I think they played a leading role in this transformation, and credit to the people of that region. The people of that region have always played a leading political role in most movements.
Viewers, very warm welcome to another episode of our weekly program, The Weekend. I am Muhammad Ali.
And I am Murtaza Solangi.
Murtaza, this week I think was again very interesting, both nationally, regionally, and globally. But one common theme that we can perhaps identify and discuss in today's episode is the role of youth, both constructive and destructive. Whether it is British riots or the tumultuous events in Dhaka, or the rags to riches story of Mia Chunnu. So let's begin by a shocking development in an otherwise very sober, sophisticated, and educated society of Britain. What made things go so wrong? What made the youth become so angry? What's your take?
Well, when it comes to xenophobia, right-wing nationalism, white supremacist ideology, that's not new to history. What has made it deadly is the role of social media. Somebody did a crime. Somebody was from Rwanda who committed a heinous crime. But some people on social media claimed that here is this immigrant who entered UK illegally, is a Muslim, and has committed this crime. So they tried through disinformation to create an anti-Muslim sentiment, an anti-immigrant sentiment, which has already been there in Western societies. And they whipped up a frenzy. Young and old, people, mainly white supremacists, they attacked South Asians, Muslims, and they also involved young people, as you rightly said. One of the persons who was convicted was probably under 18, and he tried to use his age to defend himself, that I am so young, but he was still convicted.
But was this misinterpretation of facts restricted to social media? Because I noticed some of the popular British newspapers also jumped on the bandwagon and hastily echoed the same sentiment, divorced from reality.
The power of social media as it has emerged after 2010 and 2011 is so powerful that entire global media, including Pakistan, a doctored video, a doctored screenshot, a doctored audio, voice cloned audio is surfaced on some social media platforms, and the newsrooms don't try to verify it, check it, and they rebroadcast it, publish it. They don't do the due diligence. The old school three-source rule is thrown in the dust, and you have perfect storm. So it's true that mainstream media too picked up, but the source was social media.
So when somebody from Pakistan or Kashmir is implicated without any verification by primarily social media, and then echoed, the same fake narrative is echoed in British mainstream broadsheet newspapers, who do you think wants to benefit from it? Who would like to blame Pakistan and cause discord in the British society, while over 1 million people living in Britain of Pakistani origin have a very important role in the British politics and economy? That
right-wing xenophobic, chauvinistic, ultra-nationalist ideology and politics has been there for quite some time. You see the glimpses of that in American politics. Try to listen to the speeches by Mr. Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, and the Trump party. Try to listen to the speeches that were made during that January 6th attack on Capitol Hill, how that entire frenzy was created. So, that politics, you have seen it in France, you have seen it in Germany, it's in Europe. So that constituency does exist. But what we need to see and learn is how British society has reacted.
But on that note, I want your brief comment on the reaction of not just the British government, but across the political divide by both Tories and Lib Dems and Labour Party.
Mainly the British society and these mainstream parties, mainly and largely, they have acted very responsibly. They have discouraged this hyperventilation and screaming on top of their lungs attitude. But the best, probably the moment, has been the British law enforcement and British judiciary.
Let's hear your views on, in a more focused manner, about the role of social media in creating such chaos at such a short notice. It is something I think Pakistani people are not alien to as well. Any thoughts on that?
Well, now there are more and more studies available on how social media has deprived the young people globally from their childhood and their early adulthood. There's a phenomenal book by New York University professor Jonathan Haidt, The Anxious Generation. And with huge study in, I think, in 47 countries, he has come up with the conclusions. He's a sociologist. The study says that all animals, all mammals, they go through a process of childhood to adulthood, that conversion, where they have a social experience. They play in groups, in whatever the playground they have, and human beings also have been doing this. That has changed after social media in 2010 and 2011. More and more young people are glued to their small screens, and it has somehow sapped and deprived them of that social experience. There are just too many examples of mental disorders and anxiety, especially in girls that train to commit suicide, and young boys going into crime, terrorism, and other things, drugs. So this is this is a global epidemic.
Okay, on that note, I think that brings us to the next topic of our program, that around 6 hours, 37 minutes is spent by 2/3 of human population living on this planet on screen time. But there are people who did not have enough money to afford a smartphone. There are people who were, who could not afford such a lifestyle and chose to spend their energy, their passion on the playgrounds. Despite lack of resources, lack of opportunities, but they had a dream and they had a passion and they pursued it vigorously. And then one such villager from Mia Chunnu brings home Pakistan a gold medal from Olympics after 4 decades. So don't you think being poor and technology deprived can become a blessing in disguise?
I think Arshad Nadeem and his family were lucky that he was not fed and taught by small screen. He was lucky and fortunate enough to have a real, actual playground rather than having a virtual playground and playing video games on small screens.
And that's what he asked for from the Prime Minister, that I want to have a playground where I can teach more kids to produce more Arshad Nadeems in future. So your thoughts on that? How important is playground in the current environment?
Well, as young people, we used to hear that famous English axiom, sound mind is in sound body. If you don't have sound body, you don't have sound mind. So a lot of mental issues and disorders and a lot of negative social trends have a lot to do with our young people deprived of this opportunity to play in a social setup with other people, where you are not just confined to a small screen. So what Arshad Nadeem has proved is all you need to have is that appetite to do something great.
But how would you briefly compare his rags to riches story with such modest background and resource constraints with the formidable competitor from neighboring country, India, who had the best resources, most advanced facilities, most lucrative contracts, and all the equipment that any athlete from the developed world can dream of? How do you compare these two individuals?
The other individual who showed his magnanimity, and his family too showed magnanimity and exhibited the sportsman spirit, which is becoming very rare, had everything. And Arshad Nadeem had nothing.
He could not afford a single Javelin a few months ago, you would recall?
Exactly.
For training.
Yes.
And he broke the world record twice within a span of 1 hour.
I would say Arshad Nadeem had nothing to lose but his chains and had the whole world to win, and he proved it.
One last question on Arshad Nadeem. What does Arshad Nadeem mean for Pakistani youth and sports?
It means that whoever you are, whatever social background you have, if you have commitment, dedication, and focus on what you want to achieve, sky is not the limit, sky is the beginning.
So you're talking about commitment, dedication, and focus. The young generation of Bangladesh use these three attributes to change perhaps the monopoly of a family dynasty for a very long time. We have seen some tumultuous and transformational changes in the Bangladeshi politics. So how do you see the role of Bangladeshi youth in this changing environment?
I think they played a leading role in this transformation. And credit to the people of that region. Today, Bangladesh, former East Pakistan, the people of that region have always played a leading political role in most movements. I'm sure you remember, in 1906, when Muslim League was formed, it was formed in Dhaka. The early leaders of Muslim League were mostly Bengalis.
The Pakistan resolution was presented by Sher Bengal.
Sher Bengal. So they have a historic tradition. But what is wonderful about this is that they did not go for anarchy. They went and pushed for a democratic constitutional transition.
But I want to ask you two further aspects of this, major development in Bangladeshi politics. The Nobel laureate Dr. Muhammad Yunus mentioned that the youth of Bangladesh has saved Bangladesh again. What have they saved Bangladesh from? And why have they rejected the political ideology of the daughter of the founder of Bangladesh?
I think the young people of Bangladesh have proved that they are not prisoners of history. Okay, their forefathers or fathers, they did fight for Bangladesh, but the discriminatory system imposed by Awami League, having special quotas, that young people didn't like. They said, okay, they made sacrifices, but now we are free and we don't want discrimination. So they ensured that. But I was yesterday watching the live oath-taking of the new interim government. There are a couple of advisors from the students' movement as well, I think Nahid, if I remember the name correct. But none of the cabinet members are career politicians. They're all technocrats of different expertise, since it's a government for a couple of months or maybe 3 months.
So that makes me wonder.
And they chose a Nobel laureate.
Yeah, that's what I want your comments on, that why Bangladeshi politics, and particularly its youth, is recovering from the traditional influence of dynastic politics and moving towards technocrat-based governments. Are they losing trust in typical political parties and having expectations from technocrats?
I think globally, and especially in Bangladesh, where there are strong traditions of parliamentary democracy, the young people refuse to accept one-party rule. Sheikh Hasina's father also tried to impose that in 1975. People didn't accept it. And the people did not want to continue and accept dynastic rule.
But I want to ask you on a personal level, on a lighter note, a question. You've been part of a interim government and you were a technocrat. What are the, objectively speaking, advantages that a interim government based on technocrat experts have over career politicians?
Well, in the very shortest period of time, you want to keep the constitutional chair warm. And it can only be warm and it can only guarantee stability if the people on the steering wheel know what they are doing.
But can a technocrat-led interim government take difficult decisions which are necessary for reform and meeting the youth's expectations?
I'm not sure about it. But this is a transition period. We will all see if the constitutional order continues, then probably within a couple of months there will be elections. And the performance of this interim government, if it's a good experience and if it helps Bangladesh to recover from this shock, maybe the parties that come to power, they would look for experienced technocrats within their midst to put them in important positions.
My last question on this note is that how do you view the international reactions to this change in Bangladesh, both in the region and around the world? Have they been welcomed or are they skeptic?
I think the Western reaction so far has been positive, and they have all urged normalcy to return and continuation of the constitutional rule. With few exceptions, India, they were not happy because Awami League has been like a very loyal friend of India. Nobody would want a hostile, anti-India Bangladesh, but this was over-friendly government. So there is shock, disbelief, and despair in Delhi.
And Sheikh Hasina's request for asylum in Western countries has also not been entertained so far.
So far, we don't know how this will play out, but it's a bad news for Haseena Wajid, and it looks like her political fate is sealed.
Murtaza Saab, thank you so much for joining us again on this very important program to discuss so many important issues. Viewers, thank you so much. Keep watching this program every week for insightful analysis of the most important global, regional, and national developments. Thank you.